James.
Amy, thank you very much. And thank you to all of you who've joined us on this rather dark Monday morning. With your permission, I've been invited to talk a little bit about A Not Forgotten, which is a magnificent charity, a gem of a charity, remarkable for many things, but one is that probably most of the attendees haven't heard of it, which is why I'm so pleased to be here. And it's something I'm trying to address. I've also just noticed, I'm a guardsman by background. I did 36 years in the Irish Guards, and I've just noticed that my logo is not centralized to my date, which as a guardsman frustrates me enormously. So we'll crack on if my buttons work, and it's not working. Here we go. So what I'd like to do over the next 20 or so minutes is give you a little bit more information about The Not Forgotten, so you are hopefully wiser, and most importantly, what this will allow you to do is identify those who we can help, because the Not Forgotten helps anyone who's put on a uniform and has taken a knock and is suffering. So it's a great privilege for me to be here and tell you a bit about this charity, which has been going 100 years this year, and to hopefully allow you to go off and spread the word so that we can help more people. And to set the scene, here's a quick video giving a broad spectrum of what we do. So, founded by this magnificent and rather formidable lady called Martha Cunningham, who was actually an American opera singer, who went into a War Office hospital in Chelsea in 1919 to ask the matron whether there were a few wounded men that she could provide a tea party for. The matron looked rather disgusted and horrified and said, "I have 600 in the beds in my hospital." And in the middle of London was a military hospital with 600 people who a year after the war had ended were forgotten about. And Martha was horrified. So being the formidable lady she is, she went and set about getting her friends to organize concerts and tea parties around the UK to bring a little bit of joy and entertainment to address the causes of isolation and loneliness by these men, predominantly men at that time. And in the first year helped over 10,000 people. And she did that in 1919, and in 1920, she formed the charity. It was also formed by someone called Sir Jack Brunel Cohen, Sir Ben Jack Brunel Cohen, who had lost both his legs in Passchendaele on the in July 1917, and he went on to form the Royal British Legion, or help form the Royal British Legion the following year. His son sadly passed away last year at the age of 94, a Royal Marine, and was chairman. A phenomenal family who have stayed connected, and the family is still connected with us now. So Martha set us up in order to address the causes of isolation, and she set us up with this charity objective, which, as you will see, is hugely broad-reaching, for the benefit of service and ex-service, serving and veterans who are wounded, injured, sick, regardless of where that injury occurred, to provide them with this entertainment and leisure, the ability to go out and enjoy life as a normal person. And we're hugely proud that 100 years on, we are actually still following that very mantra. Now, every good organization has a hierarchy, and we go right up to the Princess Royal, and she is a very active and loyal patron of the Not Forgotten. I have exchanged 2 letters with her in the last 6 weeks, and she's still interested in what she was doing. She was meant to be attending our garden party on the 20th of May this year, and is very sad not to, but we will see her later in the year. I then have 4 presidents, 1 Army, Navy, and Air Force, each of them former heads of the service. So you see quite an old picture of Admiral of the Fleet Sir Ben Bathurst, the last 5-star serving officer in the Armed Forces, British Armed Forces. And I'm also supported magnificently by Air Chief Marshal Sir Stephen Dalton, who really does take an interest. I've also got Lord Danett, and I have a lady president, Commandant Anthea Larkin, who was the last head of the Wrens, who's a formidable lady as well. I seem to be surrounded by formidable women. David Cowley is our chairman, very active. His son is serving in the army at the moment, is actually looking after the Chief of General Staff. I then have trustees, a lot of them. I have vice presidents, a few of them, and I have a staff of 10, of which 4 are part-time. So it's quite a small organization. I have more people running me than I do actually delivering the events. And I've got to say, I must be very lucky to do that. And they're very good at holding my feet to the fire. Now, everyone wants to understand money. So very quickly, I spend about 1.2 million a year delivering activities and events, and as you'll see, to over 10,000 people a year. And I have an income-ish about the same. So we're quite a sort of balanced account. Now, the only difference is last year's account, we actually ended up in profit. Well, how did that happen? Someone very kindly gave us a legacy 4 days before year end, which completely threw out our budget. But normally we will balance a budget. I'm not here to make money or to even save more money. I'm here to spend it entirely on those who need our help. And I'm happy to take questions about finances later. So that's who we help. Army, Navy, Air Force, Merchant Navy, those who've served in support of our nation on operations. And recently we've included the likes of the Bevan Boys, those who were sent down into the mines in the Second World War. It's wounded, injured, sick, serving personnel, and it is veterans with disabilities. And it's no matter how long they serve, whether it be a day or many years, and whether the injury was caused in or out of service. So the range is there. A 23-year-old craftsman in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers attended one of our events last year. He'd been damaged, he's about to be discharged. And then the oldest is 102, who is still very active. The picture bottom right is of my predecessor on the left, Piers Story Pugh, ex-military, and then Bill Franklin on the right of him. Bill Franklin was 108 and he passed away 2 weeks ago. He was a prisoner of war and a remarkable man, and he attended our events. He was still practicing medicine at 102, safely, I'm told. So that's how many we help a year, and that gives you an idea. And I'll talk very briefly in a minute about what we do in each of those sort of categories. But about 10,471 people in the year, RAF 1,603. And proportion-wise, that's probably about where we are with relation to the armed forces. Although, frankly, I would love to see more members of the light blue fraternity joining us, as I would like to see more merchant navymen, and particularly those who are serving. And I was pleased that we took a young man skiing with us last year who actually left the service after 15 years of service with a medical discharge whilst he was skiing with us. And we were able just to lift his morale and make him realize that he wasn't, entirely alone in this world. And we've kept those numbers at around about the 10,000 throughout the 100 years. That's 1 million people we reckon we've helped, although our records before 1944 have been lost in the fire storm. So here's what we do. We try, through comradeship and entertainment, that's my telephone going, we try and ensure that we boost the morale of those who have left the armed forces and may be suffering from the transition. So by giving them something to hold on to, we're not trying to cocoon them, but we're trying to wrap a loose arm around them to make them realize that their service really did mean something. it's hugely valuable to us as a nation, and that we can offer them something. And sometimes if you bring these people together, then a bit of veterans helping veterans, a bit of like-minded banter with those who've been through shared experiences actually does a huge amount. And we've got wonderful quotes from people who just appreciate being included in something where they feel safe and secure. And so that's what we try and do. And at the bottom, restoring their independence and dignity, which allows them to be a better member of a community, allows them to be a better member of a family, make a move into employment. That's what we're trying to do. And we don't do any of this alone. I don't believe there's any charity out there which is the solution. Together, we are the solution. So we will address the causes of isolation and loneliness, and then hopefully with others, we will correct the symptoms. And it's a really lovely thing to be done. And so here's how we do it. We do it through a series of events and activities. And the easiest one to do, and it started in the 50s, is we will provide TVs and TV licenses to those who cannot either physically or mentally leave their homes. And so by providing them with a television, if they are financially constrained, we can give them a window to the outside world. 2 years ago, we increased that program, and we now provide mini tablets, not iPads, they're far too expensive. So we'll provide a Samsung type tablet to those who are digitally isolated. So we're all getting the hang of Zoom or Facebook or WhatsApp or Skype. So we will provide the means which these people can get entertained, can stay in touch with. And I gave one 2 weeks ago to an individual, 72 years old, whose wife had gone into hospital. He couldn't go because of COVID-19. So the only way he could communicate with her was a tablet. So I provided him with a tablet. And a lot of young men and women we give these to so that they can start looking for jobs and start integrating when they come out of the armed forces, and they might take a little bit of a dive. So it's a really important program and one we enjoy doing. I think Scottish Veterans Residence Scotland have just asked me for a 75-inch television for their community room, which I'm really pleased that we're going to be sending them this week. So that's bit one. Tea parties and concerts, absolutely back to where Marta Cunningham started us from. So by having tea parties around the UK, now we're adjusting these years, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this later. We normally run 6 or 7 tea parties around the UK. Sometimes they're on a boat, and you have a bit of a nice sticky tea in a nice location, and then we'll have a concert and a sing-along. And we do those concerts in care homes. And again, we can't do that now, so we've had to adjust the program, and we've done that, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that later. This reaches over 4,000 people a year. And look at the face of that beautiful lady there. I mean, she just had a ball. And when I get letters from people who are saying that their resident or their partner or their wife, for the first time in years, started singing because she was singing in a song that she realized from her youth, then that makes our job so enjoyable. Outings. An outing is anything for a day. And so we take people off. Wimbledon give us tickets every year to take 16 people to every day to Centre Court or Number 1 Court. Boat trips up the Thames. There's a Dunkirk little ships in the middle. We've got the Bluebell Railway on the left-hand side with a very fine tie. And then the Horse Guards pub. We don't just take people to the pub, but actually Prince Charles invites us to Highgrove, his house, once a year to take 50 people for a private tour of his gardens. And we take them for lunch at the Horse Guards pub, and then they go into Prince Charles. And actually this year, his private secretary wrote to us and said he would like to invite us also to Dumfries House. So there's a whole host of one-day activities. It might be a sporting event or rugby event where we take people out for a day and they can have a bit of fun. And then at Christmas time, we are sponsored by a corporate to put on 10 Christmas lunches across the United Kingdom. So Northern Ireland, Scotland, all the way down to Plymouth in the bottom left and down into Kent in bottom right. And this is a chance for about 100 people at each lunch to come together to have a traditional Christmas lunch, if that's what you like, and then a bit of a sing-song and a dance and a bit of joy. And two pictures here I'd like you to do. Top right, there's a man wearing a very bright coloured beret. He's actually a W2 in the Royal Marine Special Forces Group. And he brought along, and you can see 3 people behind him who are younger men than normal. They're all Royal Marines, they're all damaged. And they came along and they're serving to join, and they mixed in and they had a bit of a conga. And then the bottom center picture, this was a Christmas lunch in in Bristol 2 years ago. And those 2 gentlemen, both members of the Royal Air Force, had last met each other when their squadron was disbanded at the end of the Second World War. They had been in the same bomber for most of the Second World War. Can you imagine the banter and the fun? That it was just, it made my year to see that happen. And look at the faces of people just relaxing in a like-minded, with like-minded folk, and just enjoying some good old-fashioned fun. And that is what we do at Christmas. Now, recently, in the last 5 to 10, 15 years, we've been getting younger men and women who are getting damaged, significant operations. And so we've adjusted our program, and we have these challenge holidays, because these men and women still need something, but they need to be pushed. And so we have the sort of camaraderie, the slightly more gentle activities on one side, and then we come over to the slightly more demanding activities. And it's a very successful program. Whether it be skiing in America, whitewater canoeing, which I suspect this year in the Alps will be cancelled, kayaking in Norway. There's a couple of supporters who give us Brands Hatch for the day, and then all their mates bring along their fast cars and whiz us around the patch. Can you imagine what fun that is? And we have a dinner the night before, and it's sort of like the first night back at school. Everyone's a little bit nervous. Who's around? I'm not sure about him. And then the second night, they're telling tales which just get longer and longer as the evening goes on. And the person who organizes this brings along party poppers, fake snowballs, they have fake food fights, and it's just a bit of light-hearted fun. And that is it. Look at the faces of the guy at the front of that kayak. And when you put a man in a kayak who has no legs, and then he realizes and he feels sorry for himself, and then he sees someone in another kayak who happened to have had his complete body burned out in the turret of a tank in Iraq. And suddenly they become friends because they realize that they're in a bad place, but there's someone else worse off, or that they can help. Then that's where people grow. And bottom right, we've got a magnificent and rather barking old lady in Mallorca who gives us her farmhouse for 3 weeks a year. So we take 20 men, some and their partners off, and women, and they go and just are treated like kings. And that does the world for them, their morale, their dignity and independence. And then our absolute flagship events are, since 1921, we have been hugely privileged to have a garden party at Buckingham Palace solely for veterans. It's been cancelled 4 times in that period, 3 times during the Second World War and once during COVID-19, which is a great shame, but we'll be back next year, God willing. And so for 3,000 guests, come to a garden party at Buckingham Palace. I'm going to show you a little video about it later. It's exactly as any other garden party at Buckingham Palace. There's a royal there, and then there is a full afternoon and a sumptuous tea, and they're not crowded out by anyone else. So it's only us. A normal garden party is about 9,000 people. We are 3,000. It's a huge privilege. And then we also have a Christmas party in the state apartments. So this is where we have a tea, a super sumptuous tea, and afterwards we have a concert. And you can see bottom center, you got Boney M played last year, and they're still pretty good, and they can still get a room tapping. So this are occasions where we can make service personnel who may be a bit down, who maybe have taken a knock, we can lift them up. And Prince Harry, when he came to the garden party 2 years ago, was, as you would all expect, phenomenal. We're very lucky. Christmas party is going to happen this year. And we're thinking of what else we can do in lieu of not having a garden party. And I've got a few ideas. So this is a group of people that we're supporting. And this is just a normal group. And you can see Cyril Banks, Second World War, North Atlantic convoys. You got Caroline Beasley, Royal Military Police, shot in the face by the IRA, didn't come out of her house for about 10 years. And then we wrapped our arms around her. And now she's in an Invictus choir and she has completely regained her life. She's a beautiful person and she has now risen. Marcus Stryden, Grenadier Guards, but we can all forgive him that. South African, shot in the stomach in Afghanistan. It was a bad day for him. He took a building, he managed to gain entry, dispatched one individual, and then someone else came in and joined the party, which he wasn't expecting. So he took a few rounds in the stomach underneath his body armor. He sorted that out, went down, and then a third person came in and threw a grenade which bounced off his helmet. And he thought the day couldn't get worse. And he tells a very amusing story of when he was evacuated, the Commissar Major loaded him onto one of his little quad bikes, turned around and said, "Marcus, scream if you want me to go faster," and then set off at speed across the veldt to get into the helicopter. And Marcus said, "I did try and laugh, but it was quite hard." John Liddy is a formidable man, damaged in a training accident with the Royal Marines. You can see that proudness on his face, and it's lovely to work with him. Carl Harvey, member of the Royal Air Force, damaged during service, but lost his leg as a result in order to let him make the most of his life. And then Steve Tuffin, blinded as a 19-year-old man, or three-quarter blinded as a 19-year-old man, having just joined the PAS and gone to the Falklands. We put him on a bicycle last year. For the first time in 35 years, he went on a solo bicycle in France. And he said it has completely changed his life. And that has completely changed my life. So that's a sample of who we help. That's what people say about us. Most importantly, we do not judge anyone. We're not here to judge. We have no membership. Anyone who's damaged, who's referred to us by a charity or an organization we hear about, we are honored and privileged to help. And everyone means something to us. So if you phone a charity, even now, you will go through to one of the 6 members of staff who are answering the phone. And it could well be me. On my website, on our website, you'll see my email address. So if you want to contact me, you can do so. That is, and I spend a lot of my time phoning people at the moment to make sure they're well. And that I think is a real key bit. And I know that RAFA are very good at it. It's this personal touch. People don't want to be put through to call centers. They don't want to talk to someone who doesn't understand. They want, if they're going to take that bold step to reach out and ask for help, then they want to speak to someone who can make a difference. And I think that's what we do, along with a lot of other good charities. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you one more video and then wrap it up, if I may.
The Not-for-Profit Association was founded to bring activity, comradeship and challenge back into the lives of men and women who've been injured in the Great War. And that's exactly what we're still doing. Today is the sort of icing on the cake to come to Buckingham Palace. It's a grand day and that's exciting and memorable. But actually, it's a day when there were 2,500 veterans there with their carers and partners, just having a fantastic day with like-minded people.
Went on a routine foot patrol. I stepped on a pressure plate IED, resulting in me losing my right leg below the knee, my left leg above the knee, and my right arm above the elbow. Whether you served in Northern Ireland back in the day, in the Falklands, or any other conflicts, you know, the amazing charity like the Not-Forgotten Association, who take us on the garden party and things like that, you know, gives you that little bit of morale. It makes you feel really special, really proud to still be appreciated for what you've done, I think.
I have mishaps. I was known as the private Benjamin. There were lots of mishaps, but I was actually medically discharged with post-traumatic stress disorder. So sadly, it was my dream career turned into my nightmare. With PTSD, you get social anxiety, and you've been encouraged to join because there's going to be people, old and new veterans, varying age ranges, but we've all got one thing in common, and that's we've all served.
I'm a wife of a veteran for the last almost 24 years. So in a way, I have served my time too. My husband has been injured for like 4 years now. The NFA helped him greatly with his recovery because of having lost that confidence.
I've suffered myself. I've been a civilian now for about 18 months, and I miss the Royal Marines, you know, terribly, absolutely, really badly, to be honest. Society, you know, it's so busy and it's survival out there, and nobody's got time for anybody else. I've been in charge of a lot of fantastic Marines, and I've seen them suffer and struggle, and it's a real comforting sort of sense to know that they're not forgotten is out there.
It's really important that we can laugh again. You know, I've got a smile on my face again now for the first time since I was diagnosed in 2012. When you're just back with the crew, which is what it is, then that's it. You know, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because it matters so much.
The charity targets individuals. I just wish and I hope it never ever changes to what it's doing, because it is perfect.
It's not just, yes, we've got 5,000 people on the books, they know each person.
I think it just makes you feel special and proud to still be remembered and, you know, not forgotten about.
To see the effect it has on people being with like-minded service people, and often some of these guys are living on their own, and some of them are struggling a bit with their injuries. It means an enormous amount to them. To see the change we can make is worth every bit of it.
Every time I look at that, I get goosebumps, because I think it's just, I mean, you look at those faces and you just think, my gosh, aren't they wonderfully proud? And whether they are Second World War veterans or young men and women who've recently served, you just feel incredibly proud to be part of that family. And Matt Tomlinson, who spoke in the middle of there, is the ex-brigade RSM of the Royal Marines. I mean, a Queen's Gallantry Cross and a Military Cross. When he was serving 2 years ago, he was the most decorated soldier in the British Armed Forces. A hugely humbled man who is a trustee and looks after us. And you just, you know, even the Royal Navy saluting when the Princess Royal comes onto the balcony. I mean, it's almost perfect. The one on the left is late. And last year, my son, who recently become a Royal Marine, bless him, went along and did all this helping. We get the service helps along. And when he came up to me and he said, right, Dad, I've spoken to all the Royal Marines here. He said, I'm now going to speak to the paras. And I went, why? And he went, well, I just want to ask them one question, which is, how long was it before they realized they made a mistake? And I said, please don't do that. But the banter was fantastic. And I'm sure, and I hope you saw it. And I'm really pleased there's so much light blue in that movie, including someone called Squadron Leader James Stopford, who I served with many years ago. And I don't know how he gets his face into every video that I do, but it's, you know, to have the tri-service community there in force, service helpers mixing with veterans means everything to both groups. The serving men realize what they aspire to do, and the veterans realize that they've not been forgotten, and that makes the world of difference to us. So just very quickly before I cut you loose, so what have we done with COVID-19? Well, we couldn't stand still. Our tea parties and concerts have been postponed and some cancelled. So we've set up 3 new initiatives: a call campaign where we work through our database, calling those who are vulnerable, most vulnerable, making sure they're okay. And I've got 8 to phone this afternoon. We have a care community online, which is putting people in touch with other people, so that if we find someone who's vulnerable, I found someone on the weekend who wrote to me in Gosport, so we've managed to get some people in the Gosport community to make a call and make sure that they wrap their arms around them. And then we're starting a postal engagement where we're going to send out little gifts to those who are by themselves to hopefully bring a bit of a smile and to fill the day. We've put our concerts online. So every week, twice a week, on a Tuesday and Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a show called The Best Seat in the House goes out on YouTube. And it's the concert show. It's an hour long. And there's a bit of Knees Up Mother Brown music. There's something slightly more contemporary. There's a bit of comedy. There's a bit of magic going on. Brian May performed on the last one for a bit. We've had Cliff Richard did a bit. We're on show number 9 now, and we'll keep these going for as long as they're needed. And they're mostly geared towards the older generation, but I'm told that the younger generation are tuning in, particularly if you like things like the Jive Aces, which are a magnificent band. So that is really super. And this Friday, 8th of May, they're doing a Bless 'em All V-Day special celebration. And I received a letter on Friday from Dame Vera Lynn, which I read out on the show to all our veterans and beneficiaries. So that's what we're doing now, and we're keeping on the ideas, because although we might be allowed back into the office in the near future, a lot of this distancing is going to affect us to come. So our mantra is we're postponing things, we're not cancelling things, so everything has been moved back into the year. I talked about our tea parties and the garden party being cancelled, so we're looking at introducing a series of mini garden parties towards the late autumn time, specifically geared towards the World War II generation. And I will be writing to the head of SAFA, Royal British Legion, the RAF Benevolent Fund, Royal Navy Royal Marine Charity and the Army Benevolent Fund this afternoon to tell them about these tea parties, to make sure that they can introduce us and make sure we're inviting the right people, those who will benefit most from coming in, having a nice sumptuous tea and then a bit of a concert and a bit of an eat-up. But then our program continues, and the activities, the climbing, the mountaineering, the concerts, the Brands Hatches, the trips to sporting events, all of that kicks off again as soon as we can, and it is safe to do so, because that's what makes us tick. That's where we're hoping to go. We've been around 100 years. God willing, we'll be here for another 100 years, because there's an absolute need for what we do, and we support all veterans. And the more, frankly, the merrier. So we've got lots to do. The demand is high. And if anyone needs to get in touch with us, that's how to do so. And I thought I'd leave you with Carl again, just to remind you that the RAF are a very important part of what we do. Amy, that's it, longer than I hoped.
Thank you so much, James. The RAF Association would be more than happy to help support some of your tea parties as well. So make sure you send that information over. That'd be wonderful. I just want to say a huge thank you. We've had some lovely comments in on the chat box. So there's a comment from Michael. He said, I was very fortunate to meet, and he refers to you as the boss, at our local RAFA branch in Swindon when he did a talk. So you've got celebrity status, James.
Yeah. He would have been bored to tears by all that game.
We've had a message from Sheena, so this is while you're playing some of the videos. Sheena says, oh no, the lump in my throat is growing, tears next. And then she messaged saying, yep, tears now. I said, it's all positive, and she said, it's wonderful, thank you. We've had a message from Jeff, who sings your praises as well, says you're a brilliant person.
Jeff, I know him. I thought that might be Jeff. We're still going to get that iPad delivered to your man in Warminster.
Said that. He said after COVID, we're going to present him with the tablets. There's another comment. My husband served in the RAF for 37 years, and 12 months into his retirement, he suffered a massive stroke. We were invited to the Queen's Garden Party in 2019, which raised mixed spirits and made him realise that he wasn't alone after all. Additionally, he realised that his rank or lack of it had no bearing on his acceptance by the group. What a wonderful charity.
There you go.
That's lovely. That wasn't even set up, James. That was a real life comment.
Well, that's really nice, and the rank absolutely has no relevance in my house, and I found it has no relevance in the office. So I'm often number one on the tea kettle.
John says, thank you for the presentation, excellent, and so impressed. So you've obviously made an impression, James. So what we would normally do is raise a cup of tea to say thank you, raise our brews. So I will raise mine to you, and you can raise your pink spotty mug, which I'm sure is cold by now. We've had loads of comments just to say thank you, and we're just very grateful for your time, James. Thank you all very much for joining us today, and make sure you check out the rest of the programme on the OpConnect website. And if anyone's got any questions, you can direct them to OpConnect, that's OPCONNECT @rafa.org.uk. Thank you very much, team. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.